All right, the final of the essential parts are engines. You got to make that vehicle move. So, UNU engines can be divided into three basic categories. First are all the special wonky engines. These are typically only used in specific vehicles. For example, the H4 right now is only used in the Reichswagen. The V12 is only used in the Diplomat, motorcycle engines, boat engines, also all these aircraft engines. Uh, these, to the average player, can typically be ignored. When they are required for specific vehicles, I will mention them in the vehicle, when we go into all the different vehicles. For the most part, if you use just kind of the normal UNU vehicles, you don't really need to worry about these. The next category are the heavy engines. So these are going to be the ones used in larger trucks, such as the camel, the burro, the mules for the military pack, the tractor. So this is the I6, I8, V8, and V10 heavy engines. These are not interchangeable. If it requires a V10 engine, it requires the V10 heavy engine. If it requires the V8 heavy, it's the V8 heavy. These aren't really swappable. They're kind of meant for their specific application. And even the the I8 heavy engine may be discontinued as not many people even use it. Typically, it's just the straight six. So, with those out of the way, we're going to go into the main engines that most UNI vehicles are going to use, and those are the civil engines. So we got the straight four, the inline four cylinder, the V6, the inline six, and the V8. A lot of the engines come in a couple different varieties. So we've got, for four-cylinder engines, we've got the standard I4 and the flathead I4. We just have a standard V6 engine, no flathead variant there. For the straight six, we've got a flathead and a standard variant. And for the V8, we've got a flathead, a fuel injected, and a standard variant. So we'll go ahead and just start kind of going into these. Now, these are divided into two groups for a reason, and that is because these smaller ones, so the four bangers and the V6s, are typically interchangeable. So, for example, the police version of the Rabbit calls for a standard V6 engine, and that shouldn't be green. I'll fix that. It calls for a V6 engine. As you can see, it has dual exhaust, and the V6 sits quite snugly in there. There are a few different, things that make these interchangeable. So, for example, the fan is positioned right next to the radiator, and that top radiator hose goes right into the engine. And so, if I swap this out with the four-cylinder that the normal Rabbit takes, everything still lines up. So, let me go ahead and grab that. Boop. Everything still lines up, and the same goes for the flathead four-cylinder. So everything lines up very well. These engines are interchangeable. And then the other interchangeable engines are the straight sixes and the V8s. So, for example, the UNU broker calls for a straight six. Right now, it actually calls for a V8, but I'm going to be changing it to a straight six. So it fits in there nicely. Everything lines up. We've got the radiator hose, all that stuff. It fits in there, with plenty of room. And then you can also take it out and swap it with the V8, and everything still lines up really well. So, typically, for any vehicle that calls for a V8 engine or a straight six, you can, drop in any one you like. It just specifies which one because it doesn't really make sense to have a flathead in a 60s car. Um, Flatheads are typically used in older cars. And then you've also, you can throw in the fuel injected one if you want to be, high performance. You want to make a sleeper out of your broker. So calling for the specific engine for UNU vehicles basically just comes into, takes into account what is era correct. So, flatheads and older vehicles, standard engines and newer ones, and how the exhaust system is. So, for example, you can see there's two little exhaust things. Those are for V engines because it, ends up having dual exhaust here on the back. As I said, the broker is going to get downgraded to a straight six. It is an economy car. And then the straight four-cylinder and the V6s are meant for these smaller cars. The engines are physically shorter, more compact. Once again, the V engine is designed to have a dual exhaust system, whereas the straight engines are meant to have one. Sometimes, as in the case with the Rabbit, it'll only, the civilian version of the Rabbit, it'll only take a straight four at the moment. That just, comes into engine sizing and stuff. But yeah, pretty much that's everything you need to know about UNU engines. Again, pretty straightforward. If you just make an UNU car, follow the, what it says in the description, that'll be everything you need. If you want to upgrade your car a little bit beyond, what's recommended, again, V8s and straight sixes are interchangeable, and V6s and straight fours are interchangeable. None of the other engines are really interchangeable, although because of how MTS, sort of sizes engines, um, you can kind of play fast and loose with the rules and get weird looking things where the engine sticks out of the front. But yeah, that's pretty much everything you need to know about engines. Now we'll just go ahead and hop into miscellaneous parts.